Hey, thank you so much for coming down, Nick. We really appreciate it. First, I just wanted to ask, how did you get involved with this project? How did you get involved with Jay? And how did your casting in this movie come all about?
Well, this all started with the film department at the Ohio State University. And my friend Rick Kessler, who played Eric, he got involved with the film department, with the student films, and did several student films. So Jay Woelfel, the director, was looking to make a short film called Beyond Dreams Door, which he did. But he needed an Eric. He had a Ben Dobbs. Rick Kessler was playing Ben Dobbs. And but he needed an Eric, the TA. So Rick, who was a good friend of mine, recommended me, and we did the short film. So then after that, we did a lot of other work together. We did a feature film called Road Meet together. Yeah. And Jay was the cinematographer on that. And then after Jay worked on Road Meet, he decided, well, if this guy, who had never even directed before, can make a feature, why I should be able to make a feature here locally too. So he decided to make a feature out of Beyond Dreams Door. The short expanded the script, but switched roles. Decided that I would be a better Ben Dobbs, and my friend Rick played Eric, the TA.
Which I agree.
Yeah, it worked out much better. Now Vinegar released this on Blu-ray recently as part of a set called Homegrown Horrors. And you can see the short film on that. And there's a bunch of other extras too. There's just commentaries, all kinds of stuff to waste time with.
It's a really great set.
Yeah.
And so what was it like shooting on campus there? Because I know a lot of the interior shooting in the movie is shot on campus. Did you guys have to do all that after hours? What was that like? Was there any weird or difficult stories involved in shooting the film?
You know, not being involved in production management, I don't really know how. I suspect a lot of things that we were shooting, we didn't have permission.
Sure, yeah.
You know, we were down in the sewers at one point. I don't think we were supposed to be there. I came in late because, you know, I've seen this movie too many times, I think. And so I came in late, but I was reminded of something because I came in about half hour before it was over. And there's that scene where where I climb up on the roof and go in the window to let him into that building.
Yeah.
Well, that building was Haskett Hall, which was the film department at Ohio State University. It no longer exists. But at one point, Rick says, yeah, go ahead and go in that window, climb up there, go in that window. People do it all the time. Well, that was true. That's how students got into the film department, you know, to edit their film or do whatever after hours. They would climb up in that window and go in that, and it was a bathroom, I think, and they go through there and open the door. Another story I remember about the first day of shooting. Back in those days, I was having some back problems, and my back would go out on me for no reason at all. Luckily, that's been fixed since, but the day before the first day of shooting, my back went out, and I could hardly move. I was like this. It was so sore. And I told Jay, I said, I don't know if I can do this first day of shooting, but I'll be there. We'll see what we can do. Well, of course, I have to run. The first day I had to do, you know, I do a lot of running in this movie.
You run a lot.
Yeah. Well, there is this one shot of me. I'm chasing that piece of paper, and it's the first shot that I did for the movie, and the paper blows away or something, and I'm like, there's this one shot of me just going like that. It's so awkward. You know, I notice it. I don't know if anybody else notices it, but it looks so ridiculous. It brings me back to that pain I was in that day. The other thing is Rick had to do, Rick, who played Eric, he had to do a pickup shot, which was like probably weeks, maybe a month after we had finished principal photography. And so Rick got cast as Daddy Warbucks in a production of Annie, and he had to shave his head. So there is a shot. What they did is when they cut his hair, they put it in a bag because they knew this might be a possibility. Yeah, so there is
Really?
there is this shot, and it's towards the end. It's when he's walking up to Julie's house. His mother asks him, "Oh, you know, come on in, see my headless daughter." And there's a shot where he's walking up the lawn, and his hair is all matted, and it just looks like the worst haircut ever. But that's because they glued his hair for that shot, because he was completely bald.
I've watched this movie 4 times now, and I never noticed that before.
There's a lot of stuff like that I could point out. Yeah.
Maybe
It might be in the commentary track. I can't remember. I did this commentary track years ago.
that might be the best special effect in the movie.
Yeah.
And speaking of the special effects, I mean, I think you all agree the special effects in this for such a low budget movie are really impressive. And did you have to help out at all on the set? Did you have to like wheel a monster around? Did you have to toss blood on somebody? Did you have to do any of that? Because I'm assuming the crew was small.
Yeah, but we had a really great crew, and the special effects guy, I have to give a shout out to. His name was Scott Simonson, and I don't know where he is now, but he was so talented because I worked on several films with him, and he just did some amazing stuff. And so, no, I wasn't directly involved in the effects other than just being an observer. But he was so talented, and the things he made, like that book monster at the end, and the monster itself, which was just a puppet that was more or less in pieces. But the way they shot it, you got this angle of it, and they were real quick shots, but it was more or less just a puppet. There was one kind of life-size version of it, but it wasn't a complete thing.
Yeah.
So, but the way it was shot and edited,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
looked like it was a complete thing, but it really wasn't.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way that it's shot, the way the monster is shot, and the way that it's edited around it, like, I think Jay did a really good job of accentuating the positives, and then like making sure through the editing that you're not seeing any sort of strings. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't recall any strings. It wasn't that kind of puppet.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I know it's not a marionette or anything.
Yeah, right.
I just meant that like they do a really good job of presenting it on screen,
Oh,
make
I
it look
see
as
what
real
you
as
mean.
possible. Yeah.
Sure.
And something I noticed this last time is that like near the end of the movie, when there's good Ben and there's evil Ben, I never noticed the scar on the forehead, how it goes away when evil Ben shows up. That was the first time I noticed that this time. There's just like little things in that you can tell that Jay really knew what he was doing.
What about the guy who I meet in the tunnel?
Oh yeah, when you have the beard.
Yeah, that is, as I understand it. Don't ask me what this film's about, by the way. I have no fucking idea. Yeah. But I do know, by the way, the guy in the tunnel is supposed to be future Ben. He's the Ben that's been running around being chased by the monster for eternity.
Eternity, yeah,
Yeah.
in the sewers.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that's me, but it is. I'm basically talking to myself in that scene.
Yeah, no, it's super effective because yeah.
But even though I don't quite understand this movie, which a lot of people don't, every time I see it, I see things I hadn't seen before, things that kind of connect. you know, oh yeah, that's a reference, you know, to that shot. You know, I didn't understand what that was, but now I see it's here, and and the use of color, all that's very well planned in Jay's mind.
Yeah.
What it ultimately adds up to, I don't know, but I know there is a lot of depth here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads to my next question, which is, do you know what Jay was like primarily influenced by movie-wise for this? Were there any movies that he asked the cast to watch to kind of get in the mood of the film?
No, there's a mistaken notion that Jay is ripping off Nightmare on Elm Street, but this was actually written and filmed before Nightmare on Elm Street came out.
Wow. Okay, so it was shot earlier in the '80s than I had thought.
Yeah, we shot it. I don't know, mid '80s or something,
Yeah.
and it took a few years to come out, I think. Anyway, all I know is that Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not sure about the timeline, but I know that it was written before it at least.
Yeah.
And so it was not an influence on Jay.
Yeah. I just meant there's like a lot of stuff in it. There's like very, like the lighting is very reminiscent of Mario Bava's
Right.
color films.
Well, that's Scott. Scott Spears is just a terrific
Yeah.
cinematographer. I've worked with him over the course of many films, and I still work with him occasionally. He's a great cinematographer, and Argento-esque lighting. It's great.
I think that and it's funny too, because I think this was filmed much before a lot of the films that David Lynch would make, but there is kind of a Lynchian sort of quality to a lot of the movie. Even when it's just like exploding light bulbs. I mean, Lynch does that all the time.
Yeah, I did a film about 10 years ago with Jay called Asylum of Darkness, that's getting a future Blu-ray release. It came out on DVD and it's been streaming, but that movie I think is very David Lynchian.
Very David Lynch.
Yeah, and to the point, where people are just kind of boggled at the whole thing. I like that film. I like that film, but it's almost 2 hours of that kind of thing. This is 90 minutes is a good, or this is actually less than 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually, this comes in about 84 minutes or something, and then, they tacked on those credits, and one of the reasons those credits seem to go on forever and all the extras are listed and everything, I think they had to pad out the runtime before, they got the distributor. They wanted it had to be a certain length. And speaking of which, the original script did not have the naked dream seductress person. So we were shopping, or Jay was shopping it around to distribute them, and they said, well, this is fine, but there's no nudity. We have to, if we're gonna take this, we have to have some nudity in it. So Jay wrote these scenes with his dream seductress. He hired this woman who was willing to do it and everything. And Jay said, hey, will you come back and do some scenes with this new girl? And I'm like, well, yeah, sure, let's do that. And she was very nice. And so we shot all that, and it fit. I thought it fit pretty well. The only objection I had to it was there's this scene where I'm in a bedroom, and this thing is coming out of the sheets, and it's like, what is it? Oh. And when I did that scene, they said, okay, so you're going to see a monster come out of these sheets. I want you to scream. I do a lot of screaming in this movie. I don't know why. But you got to scream and see this monster. Well, now it's like a naked woman comes out and I'm screaming. So I don't know. It kind of changes the character. What's this guy about? He's terrified of naked women.
Speaking of naked women, you have a movie coming out on Blu-ray soon that was previously unreleased, in which you star with the legend Linnea Quigley. That movie's called Heartlands of Darkness. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? And do you know exactly when that's coming out on Blu-ray? Because that's never, the full version of that movie hasn't been seen since it was filmed, correct?
Correct. It was originally, when we shot it, it was called Fallen Angels. We did it right after Beyond Dream's Door. This guy, Eric Swellstead, who worked on Beyond Dream's Door, he decided he wanted to make his own movie, so he wrote this, back in the day they called these movies satanic panic movies. So in this movie I play this evil reverend who's controlling this town. It's a satanic church, so it's one of those kind of deals. And so yeah, we shot that in and around Central Ohio, and the producer had the big idea of, hey, I think we can get Linnea Quigley for this, and so Linnea came in for 3 or 4 days, and that's the reason that this film, well, it was never finished, for one, until recently. You know, and I was always bugging Eric. I said, Eric, you know, you really got to finish this film. But he didn't want to put the money in to do it. He couldn't get any backing to do it. But well, he finally broke down, and he put the money in to finish the film. And so after all this time, it's finally coming out on Blu-ray by this company, Visual Vengeance, I think is the name. Anyway, it's going to be out November 11th or something, I think is the date. And I'm really pleased about it because I think that movie needs to be seen. I think back in the day, people would have looked at it and gone, what is this? You know, but I think now the time is ripe. It's now called Heartland of Darkness. And I think the time is ripe for this movie because it is a hoot. It is a hoot.
Excellent, yeah. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's really a lot of ridiculous fun. It's completely, the mood of that film is completely opposite of this. This is maybe a little more highbrow, but
sure.
But Heartland of Darkness is just plain exploitation, fun, you know, which I enjoy immensely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess my last question is, what are some horror movies that legitimately scare you? And have any of them given you nightmares?
I don't remember movies giving me nightmares, but I remember being terrified when I was young. I remember, you know, seeing Earth versus Flying Saucers in a theater. That was one of my earliest memories. Ray Harryhausen Alien movie. My uncle took me to see Psycho when I was maybe about 7, which was ridiculous. That had to have some kind of effect on me. I don't know. And then the Blob. I remember with the Blob, I had it in my head. I was probably about 10 years old, maybe. I had in my head that the Blob was going to escape into the theater, and because that's what the poster showed. It was the Blob coming out of the theater. So I thought for sure that was going to happen, and so as soon as the Blob appeared, boom, I was out of there. I left. Yeah, that was it. So it took me a while as a kid to get over my fear of monsters. But I kept going back and I kept going back, and was able to conquer my fears, which I thought was, that was a big deal. Hey, I could watch this stuff now, and then, you know, that's what started the germ of the idea. Is I want to be involved in this shit. You know, I really want to do, you know, somehow be involved in this, because I love film. I love film people. I love, you know, to talk about film. Especially, you know, I love exploitation movies. I just do. And but I love all kinds of movies. But some people shy away from exploitation, Psychotronic or whatever. But I love those kind of films. So I feel very fortunate that I was able to be involved, especially in the 80s. When, I mean, now, people pick up their iPhones and say, hey, I'm making a movie. But, back then, it was, especially in Columbus, Ohio, so it was, I was able to, fulfill a dream. I just lucked into it with these people. I had a little theater background, and that's what got me into it.
Yeah, and I love that your answer was monsters, because that just ties it into this.
Yeah.
You were afraid of monsters as a kid.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Because that was for me too. Like, I grew up on monster movies as well. So again, thank you so much, Nick, for coming out. Any questions from the audience for Nick? Yes.
What is the coolest opportunity or person that you've met because you were in this movie?
This particular movie?
Or any.
Or anyone?
Or any, really. Yeah.
Well, I did a movie with Ron Jeremy back in the 80s. That was, this was before Ron was canceled, of course, but it wasn't that kind of movie. No, Ron was trying to go legit, and he was doing, he's done some legit films, and this was a movie by a guy named Brett Piper, who you may or may not have heard of, but he's done a lot of stuff. He's kind of a DIY filmmaker. He's been doing it for years. Anyway, he directed it. We did it down in Florida. It was called They Bite, and Ron was in it, and so I got to know Ron, and actually we spent one night together in a hotel room, which was, nothing. It was just interesting.
Wow.
I just remember he had to have the TV on all night. He couldn't turn. I couldn't get to sleep because he had to have the TV on. Yeah. So that movie, that movie was a fun movie to make, and it's actually a fun movie to watch too. But you can't. It's very hard to see. It's on YouTube, of course. But I wish they would re-release it. But the guy that holds the rights to that, he lives in Chicago, and he just doesn't want to give it up for unless it's a bigger amount of money than people want to pay. But I'd love to see that one come out because it's a fun little movie, a little science fiction movie. So yeah, meeting Ron was fun, and I worked background on some movies, and I got to meet Joe Spinell and hang out with him. We became buddies, and that was a real treat meeting him. So yeah. Tim Thomerson, worked with him on this last movie I did with Jay. He was a lot of fun. Richard Hatch was on that movie too. So yeah, all great people. Film people are the best.